All right. All right. We're going to talk about the utilitarianism, the pros and cons. And like I did this before, and I'm going to skim through. It's called 13 Advantages and Disadvantages of Utilitarianism Theory. And it says the green garageblog.org. Everything knows yes. And we talked about the justify the means. Let's go with the fundamental principles. Let's get into it. And it follows to create ethical structure of society. Actions is right or wrong, but consequence of the maximize. That's number one. Whatever is good or anything that is bad. The only thing that is good in society is happiness. And the third thing they said, there are only correct. Yeah. Yeah. Only thing correct if they can maximize pleasure for the majority of everyone. When looking at this definition of utilitarianism, there are some assumptions must have been made. We must believe that the happiness is good for an individual in the first place. There must be also desire with the society to pursue what would be considered something that creates that reaction. By doing so the idea is that suffering could be reduced because we all are working together. Okay. There are critical utilitarianism pros and cons to review when looking at the definition of this theory. So we're going to get into it. Yeah, I'm going to get this right. And this is like something. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. And give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. You know, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So basically, we're going to see what goes on. So we get the focus on the happiness of society and the reason why utilitarianism is a popular theory due to the fact that it puts happiness as a central reason for our existence. When we look at societies around the world today, it clears that people are not experiencing this emotion. People tend to feel happier when they have access to more financial resources. They also tend to experience this more often when there are a few worries about the future employment. In a world where utilitarianism is the primary emphasis of each action, we could reduce unemployment rates, improve households and incomes because we will be looking at the effects instead of the process for the results. So, yeah, that's number one. And number two, it teaches us harming other people is wrong. They say anyone can be personal definition and it can argue within the rest of the community. What is utilitarian teaches our definition, morality and ethics and community-based perspective instead of the individual look. But there may be choices to make us happy as an individual. But if it doesn't help others, then this theory says this is an incorrect choice. It shows us that harming others the sake of our personal benefit is not a helpful approach. Here's number three. Utilitarianism is an easy theory to implement. There's only one process to focus on upon when implementing a society that functions from the foundations of utilitarianism and happiness. All we need to do to make this theory work is to get together in a majority group and then work to determine what the positive or negative effects of each choice would be. This decision-making process is something that we all do from our first days of childhood. Incorporating it into the group theory is the natural step forward. And that is absolutely correct. And let's see. It is a secular system that focuses on humanity. One of the most significant structures a human faces when looking at life from a societal perspective is our vision of spirituality. According to various estimates, there are roughly 4,200 different religions being practiced in our world right now, trying to pin down what someone considers a spiritual belief. and what another person would think to be a scientific fact can be challenging. When we place the focus of each moral decision based on happiness alone, then we eliminate that inconsistencies which occur when focusing on a supernatural deity from an individual perspective. Here's number 5. Utilitarianism seeks to create the highest good. Although it's a perfect world, we want to see everyone have a equal happiness and opportunities. Opportunities, right? And it's like it says, equals in happiness and opportunities. See, that's what it preaches, right? That's what it says, right? So, yeah. And there is enough of the difference within our various subgroups that it can make this impossible to achieve. But that's why utilitarianism focuses on the majority as a group for happiness instead of everyone. When we are pursuing the ideas that bring a maximum level of joy into our lives, but then we are limiting the potential harm to occur in our families, communities, and overall culture. Is number 6. It focuses on democratic process for forward movement. In the typical democracy passage of legislation or the election of represent occurs when there is 50% plus one vote majority. We use this structure because it is seen as being the fairest solution to balance the different interests that everyone has for their lives. All modern governing structures, which features democratic principles, uses this philosophy. That means we are already using the principles of this theory to create happiness in our lives. Now we just need to take the time, take the next step to forward to apply it outside government. Here's number 7. We get to focus on the objective universal solutions. The reason why utilitarianism offers such a promise as a societal approach is because it incorporates universal ethics in objective manner. We can accurately measure to the positive and negative consequences of each action we decide to take as a group. It is a process which allows us to create an independent wave of dreaming what is right and wrong from a moral or ethical perspective. These principles apply across the board in all human societies. The list of cons. We do not consider any element besides happiness. That's number 1. Utilitarianism only focuses on majority happiness as the way to determine ethics and morality. It is essential that we remember there are other items of value to consider when looking at the overall experiences of what it means to be human. Love is something which which offers tremendous value, but it also can cause extraordinary heartbreak. We eat foods like kale because we know that it is a healthier choice than eating Twinkies every day, even if we prefer to do latter because it makes us feel better. There are decisions that we make every day that look at the long-term perspective rather than how we feel in the moment. Utilitarianism has some benefits, but it also ignores a lot of our life experiences. Here's number 2. It creates unrealistic perspective for society. Image in the scenario, there are 8 people right now who would benefit from having your organs when looking at the principles of utilitarianism. But the balance of happiness over harm supports the idea of putting you to death. Improve the satisfaction. Yes, satisfaction of everyone else. Why? Because you are not in that majority. If there are 8 other people and you to make 9, the chances are that everyone else would vote to save themselves as a group at the expense of your life. That is why the ends can never justify the means. It makes it too easy for the majority of people in society to create harm using the balancing principle. The happiness of the minority must also come into consideration. And it's number 3. Utilitarianism can be unpredictable. When the last time you were able to predict the future accurately? There are times when we can take an educated guess as to what is going to happen, but it's very rare to receive pre-notion about a future event that actually comes true. That means it's incorrect to the basis of ethical choices about what may or may not happen tomorrow. We must focus on what happens now in this moment and to determine what path we can pursue to create and improve society. If we're only looking at the potential, there is the possibility that we could achieve nothing. And here's number 4. It also relies on people making consistent decisions. If there's only the thing that humans are good at doing, is changing their minds, right? Right? So changing their minds. They said changing their minds. So we're gonna get this straight. All right. Changing their minds. Yeah, changing their mind. Yeah, you cannot trust anyone to ask the greater good if the majority decides to get rid of all the other structures which support societal health and wellness. The average person will act selfishly whenever they are faced with a difficult decision, no matter what their upbringing or spirituality happens to be. Why do people follow religions in the first place? The goal of being saved isn't the initial help anyone else find some level of internal salvation. It is to create life insurance policy for an unpredictable future because that is what the offers confront to the soul. This process would happen immediately if society shifted to utilitarianism. That's number 4. Here's number 5. Utilitarianism relies on multiple definitions of happiness. Every person has a different definition of happiness. Although we can find common ground on specific things, it is virtually impossible to see two people with the clone perspectives about the world today. Humans are complex beings. What makes one person happy can make another individual feel bored or out of touch with their life. That means we have to face the two choices. We could either find common ground within our experiences to compromise on the definition of happiness or allow the descriptions of the majority to exist. Number 6, it creates the potential for the majority to rule through tyranny. People who self-identify as being evangelical in the United States do not support the idea of the same gender marriage at the level of 67%, although younger evangelicals support the idea as a majority at 53%. The significant population of older adults skews the overall percentages. Now imagine that laws were being created based on the concept of utilitarianism in this population group. If you identify as an LGBTQIA plus, alphabet group, right, individual in this society, you would be unable to get married. There will be nothing you can do about it, either until the enough people were swayed to come over to your position. That's a prime example, right? So just because the majority of the population believes in something is right does not make it ethical choice. That thought process kept women from voting for the centuries, permitted slavery to exist, allows for child trafficking and exploitation still today, and many activities that harm others in some way. That is why happiness cannot be permitted to be the foundation of societal pursuits. Sometimes correct choices is not the popular choice. Like I said, the pros and cons of utilitarianism shows us that there is time and place when these principles offer the potential benefit to society. The issue here is that the advantages cannot balance out the likelihood of harm that would exist. That at the end of the day, it does not take the account how people in minority position factor in that society. They are either forced to pretend to be happy or allow themselves to be exploited for the greater good. It's by Brandon Miller, has a BA, University of Texas. You can find it on Green Garage. He's written 500,000 people, I will say, articles, blogs, and things like that. So with that, to wrap up with y'all, that's the pros and cons of utilitarianism, 13 disadvantages and disadvantages of utilitarianism. So with that, I'm going to leave y'all with that. And Grace, go! Peace.